All right. Good morning, everyone. Hope all of you had an amazing week. We are into week 5 of our United Healthcare training. So I'm going to go ahead and give it over to Matt Broman. So Matt, it's all yours, buddy.
Awesome. Thanks, Jeff. Welcome back, everybody. And another edition of our certifications and lean training that we'll kind of go into a little bit more depth. So today, what we're going to focus on here, let me see if I can switch my slides. We see that a lot of you are certified. You have your writing ID, which is fantastic. And we also see a portion of individuals still haven't completed the certifications yet. So we just wanted to clarify things, do a quick walkthrough of what that looks like. It's a super simple, easy process for those that have taken it, probably understand what I'm talking about. And then with the time remaining, we will get into our lean enrollment tool, and we'll do kind of an example this round. And then as we get into next week, we may do more enrollment situations with our lean enrollment tool. So we'll make sure you're exposed to this tool multiple times, as well as we can share a link as well that will allow you to play around with the tool and you won't break anything on our end. So with that being said, let's jump right into it. So contracting process, again, you've seen this slide over and over. Get that going if you haven't already. You know, we want to make sure your time listening to these trainings is valuable and that you're going to be implementing, you know, what we've been teaching you. But that first step is getting that contracting process out of the way. Party ID, then writing ID, certifications are in the middle. So what we'll do now is I'm going to change my screen here. Actually, can you guys see this Jarvis screen? Does that show? Okay, yeah. Perfect. And Brett, I don't know, we can kind of just go back and forth here and kind of walk through the certification portion. But once you get logged into Jarvis, and that's once you have your party ID, you'll have the ability to access Jarvis. And this is our homepage for kind of all things selling. When you first log in and you just have your party ID, you're only going to have this Knowledge Center tab. These tabs will come later once you get your writing ID. And why we do this is because we want to direct you to Learning Lab to take your certifications. And when we get into Learning Lab, some of you have gone through this process already, but for those that are still in the process of certifications, you're going to come to a screen like this. And there are tiles here that talk about different trainings. One of them that you can search for is certifications, if I can spell. And it'll pop up both Spanish and an English version. Since I've completed my certifications for this year, it's in my completed tab, but it should pop up for all progress. So we're going to jump into what these certifications look like and help you understand how to navigate. And then we'll kind of jump into lean here. So
if I could just add real quick, Matt,
yeah.
What Matt and I are hoping to accomplish today is to show the simplicity of two things. One, getting certified, and two, how to use the lean enrollment platform, which would hopefully encourage more of you to get certified and get closer to your next enrollment. So go ahead, Matt.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So as we get into the certification page here, you're probably going to have something that says 0 here, 0% complete. We want to get to a goal of 100%. And there are some items in here that you do not need to take because we're just focusing on United Healthcare certifications. We just do the prerequisite assessments. So as you can see here, 100% complete. There is an AHIP portion that you don't have to worry about for this year. That's if you were to work with multiple carriers and you want to take the AHIP course, which is on a different website. We can certainly look at that if you're interested, but you won't have to worry about that for right now. So you can just close out using this little caret key here, that section. You don't have to do that section. as you can see, there's only 2 tests to take. We have a Medicare Basics test that talks about things we've already gone over in the training portion already. And then there's a few, compliance agreements, conflict of interest response that take all of 10 seconds to do. And then there's an ethics and compliance test. So there's only 2 certifications that need to be taken. And then there's an AARP course that talks a little bit more about our partnership with AARP and how we use their brand to promote our products. So again, there's only 2 tests, Medicare Basics and Ethics and Compliance. Brett, I think there's what, like 20 questions per test?
Yeah, something like that. And you need to, as you can see, the pass mark is 85%. It could be a little tricky test. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about that as Matt click into one of the modules. Yeah,
absolutely. So you do get 6 attempts at these tests per test. So you don't have to freak out that, if I don't pass the first one, what happens? Can I still have this opportunity? Yes, there's multiple attempts that you can take. But we want to make sure that, you're passing these tests fairly quickly. To be honest, I've failed these tests before. I think I failed it last year once, so I've had to take them multiple times. So don't be discouraged on that. There is one nice part that will kind of help you through the test taking, and it's this prerequisite course. You can go through, and we'll click into the Medicare Basics one here quickly. You can go in here and you can walk through all of these modules that talks about the Medicare Basics test, what is going to be on the test. So you can do your homework on these different topics. Again, a lot of them we have covered in our trainings, but there is a way for you to download this module and use it on your certification page. So Brett, I don't know if there's anything you want to go over here before I kind of show them how to download it, but if there's anything you want to add.
No, that's it. Just downloading should be good.
Okay. So if you click up here, I want to make sure you see that. Up here, there's resources. If you click on here, you can click to access the course PDF. If you do that, it downloads the page for you. And you can save it to your desktop. The nice thing is you can have this page pulled up as you're taking the test, and Control F is going to be your best friend. When questions are asked, just like any other test taking that you might do for certifications or continuing education, using keywords and Control F to search for something, like, let's see, Part A. All right. Oh, so there's a question about Part A. Now this section is going to talk about the hospital insurance for Part A. So you kind of understand a little bit that there are ways to look into what you're trying to answer on the certifications. You don't have to memorize it.
Right. So this is a good point. What Matt is sharing is that this is an open book test. It is not timed. And yes, I too have failed the test once or maybe even twice. But again, having this Bible, if you will, 65 pages at your fingertips really makes things a lot easier to pass. In addition to this, if Matt, you want to go back into the certifications where we actually start the certifications, there's oftentimes where you can pull up a resource, but in many cases there isn't. As you can see, it's an 85% pass mark with no time limit. So take your time, right? One of the things I would point out is if you're going through a section, if you go ahead and hit start, if you're going through a section where you're being asked these questions as they are described here, if you're not familiar with it, this may be a good time to do a screen clip, right? If you know how to do clipping, you can go ahead and just take a clip or a screen print or something like that using your snipping tool, as what Matt is doing. I would take and I would snip this question and put it onto a Microsoft Word or some other kind of document, right? Like so. And I would then have this whole list of questions that I wasn't really familiar with or unsure about. And then I can go back to that resource guide that Matt shared with us, where you can now answer this question comfortably. So let's say you miss it this first time. So if Matt go ahead and answers this question, He's either going to get it right or wrong. Let's see if we get it wrong here. All right, you did not get it correct. So in this case, Matt has already snipped it because once you finish the question, you can't go back to it, right? So what you're creating here is your own little cheat sheet. So you can see it was 21 questions. He has 20 questions remaining. So that's exactly what you would want to do, at least on your first try, because you may get them all right. But again, once you get the question wrong, you can't go back to the question. So you want to snip every question before you answer and go on to the next question. Does that make sense, Matt?
Yeah, I think that clarifies things. I don't know if there's anything in the chat. Feel free to use the chat if you guys do have questions on this, because this is very important. We want you to understand how to take these certifications, get them out of the way so we can get on to selling.
And in terms of time frame, you can usually get through this test within hours. You start in the afternoon at 10 o'clock in the afternoon, cup of coffee, a bagel, you'll be done by 11:30, 12 o'clock, depending on how many things trip you up. But again, if you practice and do it the way I'm assisting or instructing you to do it, you should be able to get through it with relatively easy way.
Yep, absolutely. Another thing, if you get distracted, and you say, I'm going to come back to this later, now you just used an attempt after you exit. So make sure you stay on the page, complete it, block off your calendar, and again, just get these out of the way. Yeah.
Yes, and if you get to the point where you have 3 failed attempts, reach out to myself or Matt so we can kind of see how you're actually taking the tests and seeing if we can provide some more assistance to help you navigate it more successfully before we get to that 5th and 6th attempt where we're getting kind of nervous there. But again, if you pull down the prerequisite course, as Matt indicated, and pre-clip the questions as I have shared, you shouldn't have any problem getting through it.
Yep. I'm just gonna see here. Go ahead, Brett.
Oh, yeah, I have one question. I'm not sure if it's related to this. If we sign up to represent United Healthcare, are we considered a captive agent? Matt?
No, I think how your contract stated is where you're not captive to United Healthcare at this time.
That's correct.
Okay.
And also Betty had a question. She says, do I understand that if I leave and exit the site, I will lose my work? That's correct. Each time you leave, or in this case, start a test or start an exam, it's considered one of your attempts. So whether you complete it and or leave ahead of completing it, Betty, it will definitely count as an attempt.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And as you see here, I've completed these courses, so I get that check mark. For this instance, I went in and started a new test and exited out. It's showing me that it's not complete. Okay, so something to consider as well on that. Awesome. Anything else, Brett? I know Patrick's on as well. Raheel, anything you guys want to add on just the certification and getting people to get on this and get it all done, get it out of the way?
Can you touch a little bit on the difference of the courses? You do have the dual special needs or DSNP type of certification.
Yeah, so this is technically not a required course to take, but we do strongly recommend that you do take it. Again, just your prerequisite assessments, the Medicare Basics, Ethics and Compliance, and AARP course will get you to the point of receiving your writing ID. This is additional type of certification for those that are more interested on chronic special needs plans, dual special needs plans, those that are Medicare and Medi-Cal eligible. Even though we might not have a dual special needs or chronic special needs plan in your area, it's still highly recommended to take it just to understand a little bit more about how these plans work with the specific members that are eligible. So something to take, definitely, but again, not completely necessary at this time. It's this first kind of document or page that we want you to focus on.
Yeah, hey, this is Patrick. Just one other point to make is when you referenced being knocked out if you sign off while conducting one of your exams. Correct me if I'm wrong, but however, if you're in the training learning portion, if you sign out, it tracks how far you've gone into the training piece. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good call out. Yeah. So for the areas where you're doing your training portion, you can resume where you left off. Since we left off here, so if we go to case study, and then we exit out, and we want to come back in at a later time, that's definitely doable. It's just for the exams themselves. Let's see if we get back, to the case study here. So we're back at where we were. But for the exams, that's a one-time shot. All right, once I signed up as a representative, is one considered employed and thus will no longer be eligible for unemployment, even though no sales income has yet been generated? I don't know that answer offhand. Brett, Patrick?
No, you're not employed, so that wouldn't apply.
Okay.
Yeah, you're 1099.
You're 1099. It would not apply.
So Betty asks, with the AHIP, what is passing score? What is the passing score we must have?
I think it's like 95, and it's
Is
a
it
far
95?
more difficult test.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
But you do not need AHIP if you're just doing United Healthcare. If you're just coming on new, this is your first time, this training process is indoctrinating you into Medicare and you're doing just United Healthcare for now, this certification for United Healthcare is significantly less than that AHIP process, okay? And this certification, mind you, is getting you certified for 2020. All right. Every year as an agent, you will have to recertify, but it's kind of like riding a bike. Once you've done it, it's easier every year to do it. And you know that may seem like a little bit of extra work, but let me spin it a different way. It's what differentiates you from the average licensed agent. Less than 1% of all licensed agents in California sell Medicare. And the reason is because they don't have to go through the steps, or you go through the steps. You're separating yourself. So, but I do want to point out that AHIP. Don't open AHIP if you're just certifying with us, okay? Because once you open up that AHIP and you start it, unfortunately, I get this call a lot from my brokerage agents. If they're just certifying with us, once they open that AHIP, then you have to go complete that. It will not let you complete the certification process until you do.
Yes, that's a very good call out, Patrick. It happens to all of us as market managers. At least once a year, we'll have someone start the AHIP and they're only writing United Healthcare. Patrick is correct. You cannot not complete it now. And it is far more difficult than our basic Medicare basics through the United Healthcare side. So that was a good call out, Patrick. Thank you.
And there is a cost. I don't know what that is. Do you, Brett or Matt?
I don't.
Yeah, I think
80,
it's,
under 200, but
yeah,
185-ish.
100 and 185, and going through United Healthcare, if you were to choose that route in the future, United Healthcare gives a $50 discount. So let's say in the nearest future, a year or so from now, you decide I want to write another brand besides United Healthcare, then yes, it behooves you to take the AHIP, because then it reduces the amount of certifications per carrier you would then have to take.
Yeah.
Right? So that's all it
Right.
pretty much does, is eliminates all the extra certifications. So if you're writing for 4 different companies, you wouldn't want to have to do all of these certifications. You pretty much do one, and then maybe one or two little small things will then be required per carrier. So yes.
Awesome. Amos has a question here. I have a life, accident, and health license, but have not yet applied to be appointed by any company. Should I do that prior to starting AHIP with United?
No, it doesn't matter. He could do whatever, any sequence he'd like. If you'd want to do get appointed with United Healthcare first, but I think he's asking about AHIP. I don't think he needs AHIP right now, regardless. So I think
Right.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah. If you're just going to be appointed with United, you might as well just go with the prerequisite assessments from our certifications. If you're planning on getting appointed with multiple carriers, that's where AHIP may be more beneficial, because you do take one test that covers the Medicare basics portion for many carriers that participate in AHIP.
Hey, Matthew, I just wanted to clarify. So just to keep it simple, I think everyone on the call should understand that the goal first is just set up with the basic understanding of United Healthcare. The AHIP is a little bit more, from my opinion, a little bit more complex of a test. And am I right? It's a little bit more complex. And
Yes.
once you start it, you have to maintain that all the time, which is, to me,
You don't have to maintain it each year, but you will be forced to continue onward this certification period, right? Each year you have to recertify. So if someone did want to go AHIP, they can go AHIP this year, and then next year's certification, if they only wanted to just do United Healthcare, they can. So you have that option each year. Yes.
Gotcha. Okay.
I think for again, backing up Jeff on his point, is that it sounds to me like all of, or most of the agents, at least that are on the call, they're here to come through the new process, which is follow what I think Matt and Brett were on track for, was, hey, this is how you get UHC certified. We're just being very clear. Do not open AHIP if you're just doing United Healthcare. Down the road, when you're ready to add more carriers, you can come in and do your AHIP through our site and get a discount, but that might be down the road, and that discussion to be had with Jeff and he's your upline. So
Gotcha. I totally appreciate that, Patrick. That makes sense. Yes.
But we wanted to bring it up because there will be confusion. People will, we want to be clear. Don't open that.
Yeah.
Okay. That's probably what I should have just said to Jeff. Don't open AHIP.
That's better.
Okay.
I agree. Absolutely.
Right?
Yep. Well, good. Anything else we want to cover on the certifications before we hop into Lean and kind of run through an example?
No, I think we covered just about everything. Again, thank you, Patrick, for bringing up the AHIP part of it. But again, the simplicity of everything is what we want to share, is that it's really easy to get in, get your certificates done. Here are some cheats in terms of pulling down the prerequisites, the support guide, enrollment guides, and be on your way to certify. So yeah, I think that's it.
Cool. Awesome. So with that being said, and if you guys have questions, reach out to us. I'm more than happy to help. Let me pull up here. Let's get this pulled up here. Lean. So this is our practice site for right now, and we can send you this link for you guys to use as you kind of practice navigating this application. Once you do get into getting your writing ID, you can export Lean from Jarvis. We won't do that because this is the true one. You don't want to do that until you are truly going to write an application. So we'll share that link with you after our meeting today. But I'm going to kick it over to Brett. I'll drive here, Brett, and we'll just kind of walk through things. Sound good?
All right, yeah, that sounds great. So as Matt mentioned, we will be sharing a link to this test platform. So what we want to just pretty much touch on today is the simplicity and how simple it is to actually enroll. So again, once you finish your certifications, you'll get what's called your writing ID, which will allow you to then start to enroll. So I'm just going to touch on a few things on this screen. Number one is our scope of appointment, right? Prior to enrolling anyone you have to get a scope of appointment. And basically, we talked about the scope over the past weeks is they need to understand that you will be enrolling them in a plan, okay? There's several ways of getting it. You can get it the old-fashioned way via signature, but we do it the electronic way, where you just click on it, basically type in the information, and let's go ahead and see if we can do a demonstration of that, Matt.
Oh no, let me try this again. Did it time out on me? 1 second here.
So basically what we're going to be showing you while Matt gets logged back in is that all you simply do is you open up this scope of appointment. We typically, it's called the SOA, right? And then we email it over to your member, and then Matt is going to also show you what that looks like on the receiving end for them to acknowledge the appointment. So once you click that green SOA or scope of appointment, you click on the boxes of what you will be discussing with the member. In cases where you don't specifically know what you're going to be discussing with them, I would always recommend, as Matt just did, choose all the boxes, right? He's going to put in his name, Matt Jackson. He has a telephone number. That's not necessarily required. Only the orange asterisked items are required. Okay, so this is the beneficiary. Matt is my member that I am going to be enrolling today. So Matt's going to give us his address. He's going to use San Mateo 94401. And that is also in San Mateo County. So Matt is my member, and then he's going to hit continue to signature options. And as mentioned, there are multiple signature options. If I'm standing in front of Matt or we're meeting in person, he can sign my iPad or my laptop right there. Okay, so bam, we're done. But in this case, via COVID, we're going to do this one via email remote signatures, right? I'm not going to read through all the disclosures and disclaimers right now, but what's important here is you put the beneficiary or Matt's email address, right? And I am the licensed representative. I'm Pierce. And I need to provide Matt a 5-digit unique access code. 12345 is the one I'm going to issue to him here, and we're going to launch the remote signatures. And then we'll give this a second for Matt to receive it, and we're going to show you what Matt, the member, is seeing on the member-facing side. Now, if from here, you can actually view the scope of appointment if you wanted to print it out or do anything, save your confirmation numbers. This just tells you that you have sent it. That's why it says almost done. So once Matt hits his email, it'll show you what it looks like on the email side, on the consumer-facing side. So this is what your member will receive. It says review document. They'll click here. They'll use that. Let's see. Let it pop up first. So now it's going to ask him for that unique access code that we gave him, 12345, right? Okay, hit validate, and it's very simple to acknowledge this. It's a 3-step. So step 1, click there. I agree to use electronics, and then it's going to show all of the information that Matt has already inputted for you, the member, or for them, the member. And he's just going to adopt and sign, hit finish. And it's done. It's just that simple. So now Matt will then, or Agent Brett, in this case, will return back to the Lean platform. And I can click on the left-hand side here, the hamburger icon. You can go into it should be in your applications. And it should say my SOA confirmations. So Matt will click on there, or I will click on there, and it should show my member, Matt Jackson. It says remote in progress. Okay, so that means he has executed it. Okay, so that's the simple part of getting your scope of appointment. again, there are several different things that you can use here on the Lean platform. So what we're going to focus on at this point is doing an actual enrollment, right? So we have two ways of doing the actual enrollment once you have received your scope of appointment. One is by voice. And go ahead and click on that real quick, Matt. I'm just going to explain that one briefly. The voice system is new to United Healthcare, and how it actually works, it's very simple. Simply, you have your member on the phone. Hello, Mr. Jackson. This is Brett Johnson. I'm your United Healthcare representative. We discussed your plan earlier today, right? Yep, we're good to go. Okay, what we're going to use is our voice platform. So I'm going to put you on hold, Mr. Jackson. At this point, I would put Mr. Matt Jackson on hold. I call the number. It's not 555-5555. It's going to be a specific toll-free number. While Matt is on hold, it's going to then prompt me for my writing ID number and instruct me to get started on the recordation. So then I hit voice signature portal. I merge my member back in. Remember, I'm on my cell phone. I'm talking to Matt. And then I'm put him on hold. I call the toll-free number. It's going to get me back to here. I'll start my enrollment, and then it will conclude with an 8-digit confirmation number. So we'll give you more explanation about this one later, but I just wanted to touch on that just a little bit. So let's do an actual enrollment from the Lean platform using the email.
Mm-hmm.
So Matt is
and Brett, one thing to add, and just closing the loop on the voice signature, it's intended for people that don't have, that you can't meet face-to-face, and they don't have an email address. That's really the only time people do want to use that. They feel comfortable going with the way that we're about to show you most frequently.
Excellent call out. That was a very good point. It was used quite a bit, obviously, during COVID. It was 100% almost. We were using both of these two platforms. So good call out, Matt. So we're going to do the MA or PD. So as you can see up here, this button, the orange one, is for enrolling someone in a Medicare Advantage plan or a standalone prescription drug plan. The light blue to the left is if you were enrolling a person in a Medicare supplement. So make sure you know the two and choose the right one. So we're going to do a regular Medicare Advantage for Mr. Jackson. Okay, so we'll start with Mr. Jackson's name here. We're going to search to see if Mr. Jackson already have Medicare and Medicare Part A. And if he does, a lot of his information will populate.
And I don't believe it will on the training portion.
Okay, so we're going to skip that. This is
but
not
just to call this out. So this is a newer portion of our system. I'm just going to put it in here, but this is a nice way to verify Medicare eligibility. It'll populate their A and B dates, effective dates on when it started, and then it also will populate the information throughout the application as well. So it's not a required part of it because you can skip the applicant search as well, but it is something that many individuals use just to verify that all the information is correct, the Medicare number is correct and whatnot.
Yep, good call. So for now, we're going to skip it because the test site will not produce any valid information. So you'll start here where Matt will input all his information. Or I will be actually putting in Matt's information. Matt is driving the bus right now. So I'm the agent. I'm asking Matt his first name, his last name, his Medicare number, his effective dates, both Part A and Part B. We're going to hit continue. So we're going to go to step 3.
They're not. 1.
And that was a good catch right there. If you get the wrong MBI number and it does not match Mr. Jackson's official information, you will get an error. So that's a good catch.
Yep.
So we're going to add Mr. Matt's address, 123 Main Street, City of San Mateo, 94401, also in San Mateo County. So once you put in the address, it's going to give you the counties that are available to that address. So there again, it's another feature where you can't really break it. So if you put in the wrong city, it won't match. It won't match Main Street. So there you go. Contact information in terms of telephone number, that is an option. Email is also an option, but if we are doing this via remote email, you want to put in the email. You can put it in here, or you can put it in at the end when we choose the signature options. Good idea to just put it here. And as you can see, the most of his information continues to populate, such as his birth date, primary language. You can choose what his primary language is, and preferred material. If he wanted to receive his enrollment guides in a different language, such as Spanish, he can get it here or other. And yeah. Okay. So we're going to keep it as English. Sales initiative never changes. And again, on your first enrollment, we'll be more than happy to be a fly on the wall with you if you're having a problem with this, but we're going to give each of you a link to this testing site so you can go play with this a bit and make some errors and send us some emails, and then we can help walk you through it. So when you are ready for your first enrollment, you'll be good to go. So we're going to continue to the plan selection. Oh, you know what? I'm sorry, Matt. Can you go back one?
Yeah, and that's a good thing. So as you see here, we would tend to look around this area for a back button. The way that we can do it here is you just click on the section. So we're in product plan right now. If we want to go back to applicant to change something, we just click up here. So a little bit different, but still works.
Yep. What I wanted to point out was the authorized representative. So if I'm enrolling Matt in his person of authority or his power of attorney, like a daughter was enrolling on his behalf, you would indicate that here, put her first name, Linda Jackson, and she happens to reside with Matt at 123 Main Street. You would just type all her information in here and continue from here. In this particular case, we're not going to use an authorized representative, but just want to point out that that's how you do add an authorized representative. So we'll continue with the plan selection, and we're pretty much almost done here. You can see how simple it is. It actually is a fail-proof because if you don't click the right buttons, it'll tell you you were incorrect. So the proposed effective date, we're going to go with April 1st. And then at this point, I'll be asking, oh, Matt, you said June.
Yeah, June. That's when our.
Why don't you explain that real quick, because you are effective June 1. Explain to what you're showing there.
Yeah, so if we go back to my Medicare card, you saw that my Medicare doesn't begin until June 1st. So we're seeing this as an example of a go-getter that's just aging into Medicare and will be on their initial election period. So we're 3 months out from when the start date begins of Medicare. We do have that eligibility to enroll them now, or availability to enroll them now, but we do need to make sure that the effective date does line up with the start date of when their Medicare begins.
Exactly. So, so in this case, Matt's effective date for his Part A and Part B are June 1st, 2021. All of the effective dates will start on the 1st of the month. So in this case, he's June 1. We're just, like he says, we're early birds. We can enroll at the longest 3 months in advance for Medicare Advantage. If this person was trying to enroll in a Medicare supplement plan, the soonest is 60 days out. So just remember that. So we'll start asking the questions. Are you a resident in an institution such as a skilled nursing facility or a rehabilitation hospital? You often no, but what if it was yes? What do we get there? Let's try yes. Well, we would want the name of the institution, the address, and the admission date. Okay, so we're going to go no for now. And number 2, are you enrolled in your state Medicaid program? If we said yes, it would then ask for the Medi-Cal number or Medicaid. Medicaid and Medi-Cal, as you know, are synonymous for one another. Medicaid in California is just known as Medi-Cal. So we're going to say no in this particular case for now. Are you a member of a state pharmaceutical assistance program? So if you click yes, it does nothing. But if you click no, it does nothing as well. We always say no here. If you were or are enrolled in a state pharmaceutical assistance program, it just has to do with things on the back end of your enrollment in terms of coordinated care. So don't worry about that. Just leave it as no. So now we choose the plan. So Mr. Jackson and I discussed enrolling him in the Secure Horizons Plan 1 for the San Mateo area. So we'll click that. The plan premium happens to be $107. We already discussed this, so we're not going to go into, when I say we have discussed this, my client Matt and I have already discussed his plan. We already know what plan we're enrolling him in, because this are the things that we did, spending that 30 to 45 minutes in discovery. So he wants that plan. Does this plan have a dental rider? If it does, you can choose it, but beware, and Matt will share with you why.
Yeah, so as you see here, if we click on Dental Platinum Rider, and this is something that is in the works of being fixed, it's something new that we just discovered. But what happens is if we select Dental Platinum, it adds that $45 monthly premium on. If you decide you're having conversation, they want it, and then all of a sudden they're like, well, no, I don't want it. Maybe I'll add it later on, and you deselect it, it's still going to remain there. So it's something that we've caught and that we're working to get removed. So you probably won't run across this situation, but because it'll hopefully be fixed by the time you start using this program. But if you do this, all that you need to do is just start over on a new application. There's not a way to remove it at this time. So just something to think of, and we'll obviously update people as it gets fixed.
Yep. So if you're enrolling in the next coming weeks, because we do have a few that are really close to certification completion, just do not click the dental rider yes, unless you are absolutely certain that you're going to be enrolling them in that. Even though it will show up at the end of the enrollment, they won't be charged for it. It disappears. We can't get rid of it. And if you're doing this face-to-face with a client and they see the $45, it's hard to explain. So, yep. So let's move forward. Fitness rider. If there is a fitness rider available, it would show there. And none of our products here in Northern California have a fitness rider. It does. Some of them have fitness benefits, which are included in the plan, where a rider is not necessary to be chosen. All right. So this is where the most important part of your enrollment and where your time ahead of time should be spent. It's called the election periods, right? We went through those at nauseum 2 weeks ago, so we weren't going to go into this too much. So Matt's going to choose his election period. It's his initial election period, IEP. This is his first time enrolling into Medicare Advantage. All right. Continue to product questionnaire.
One thing I want to mention on this, Brett, is the system is pretty smart once we put in information. So if we were, it can include OEP as well, but since it recognizes that they haven't started their effective date yet, the plan isn't going into effect until 6/1. That OEP, just general OEP, isn't going to show up. But it could be OEP newly eligible, depending on, if they've made a change or not. So it does kind of understand what election periods you might be using based on information you put in before. So that should give you some reassurance that, the system's trying to help you out in selecting the right periods as well. We also kind of talked a little bit about the election period coding and kind of help you with a cheat sheet. This can be accessed through Jarvis as well, and we can show you that later on. But if you need it, and it looks like you can save it as well here, you can click on this little election period worksheet, and it will walk you through, what's an identifier? I'm new to Medicare. Okay, you're probably going to use one of these election periods, so on and so forth. So that's something that you can download when we send you out the link, the practice link here. You can download this as well. All right, so we'll move on.
So now we're going to continue with the questionnaire. and prior to selecting the doctor. So do you or your spouse work? That's often mostly no. Are you covered under any health insurance other than Medicare, such as private insurance, workers' comp, TRICARE, veterans? So often you will find members who are members for TRICARE for life and VA benefits. All you would simply do is complete the information, right? Select their group, whatever it is, say veterans, put in the insurance carrier, Veterans Administration, ID, and groups information. All right.
If you do select yes, the only thing, it's not going to change how the enrollment will go. It's just they might receive some paperwork being able to coordinate care. So it might be a good time to let the client know, since we chose yes, you might get some additional questions asked from United Healthcare about your current coverage that you have. So just something nice to state to give you some credibility too.
Right. And the same thing goes for drug coverage. So yes or no.
Yep.
It's often no, but you do have veterans that we enroll, and you can have a Medicare Advantage plan and your veteran benefits. So here's where we choose your primary care physician. And again, we've already chose or reviewed this or decided upon a primary care physician at discovery, right? The 30, 45 minutes we spend prior to the enrollment. So Mr. Jackson already has his doctor. So we're just going to assume, let's go ahead and hit all primary care. So let's assume his doctor is James Hutchinson. I would like to point out that you can use this platform, not the enrollment, but this feature of being able to search providers and prescription drug plans. And we're going to talk a little bit about that as we get more into when we wrap all these trainings up, when we get the one-on-ones and the enrollment. We'll show you how to help members locate doctors and how you can check to be certain that the doctor takes the plan. So in this particular case, his doctor is James Hutchinson. Or Matt, if you want to add any more to this.
Yeah, it kind of works like a Google search. So you can put in Hutchinson here if you know the name or their first name, and it'll populate with those doctors too. So if you have a doctor's name, you can do it that way. Or if you're looking for a new doctor, they really don't care what kind of doctors, assigned to them, or they're looking for a new one, you can just use the full list. But yep. And then the other big thing here is you can click into James Hutchinson to make sure the address is correct. You can see that he's accepting all patients and he's providing primary care services. There are some times where they might only be accepting existing patients, or they might not have primary care services, and they'll be identified here with I think it's a red X, isn't it? Yeah, a red X through it or something like that. But when we go here, you're going to try to assign them. You can't do it from this section. You have to go back to this main part where it says select PCP. So Brett, I don't know if you want to add anything.
No, that's it. You covered it. So we'll select the PCP here, the primary care physician. And then, as Matt indicated, sometimes these doctors have multiple locations that they see their patients at. You may go to the San Mateo Drive if he had another office, so on and so forth. So you just choose that, hit continue. Okay, and hit continue. You're choosing the doctor network as well. And assign that PCP. And now from here, you just click number 2, populate. So what the system allows you to do is to automatically populate based on what we just did by choosing the PCP and selecting him. When I say PCP, I mean primary care physician. But there's often times where you, let's just populate. I was going to go into why we would have to type it in versus selecting it, Matt, but I think that'll complicate this conversation. So let's just select your PCP. Are you a current patient of James Hutchinson? Yes.
And this is important when I just spoke about accepting existing patients only. If they are an existing patient of Dr. Hutchinson and he's only accepting existing patients, you'll want to make sure to select yes. If you select no, more likely than not, they won't be assigned to James. due
And
to
on
the
that note,
situation.
I'll go ahead and touch on it a little bit. There are times where Matt is a current patient of Dr. Hutchinson. So when we go to the PCP search, sometimes it will not allow us to populate him because he's not accepting patients. But if you are an existing member, he will accept you. So that is where this is the white bars where you can go in and type in the information rather than populate it. So we're going to have questions on that, and we'll walk you guys through it. It's not that complicated. It just basically says it can be populated or not. But the main thing here is what Matt is trying to share is that if you are a current member, make sure you check yes, because this is what will be populated onto their membership card. So we're going to continue to payment and signature, and we will wrap this thing up. Even with us going through this, going back and forth and giving all these details, it's only been 14 minutes. So just imagine if you had all this stuff and you're not really, going through a training, you could literally get this done in, 5 or 10 minutes. So it's just a summary here. It's going to summarize the plan that we chose, which is the Secure Horizons Plan 1. It gives a total premium of $152. Why? Because we touched that dental rider. Remember, this Matt Jackson doesn't want it. I happened to accidentally click on it. But when I send him his enrollment receipt, it's not going to entail it. And we'll see that going forward here. So from here, I would give a payment disclaimer. I'll let them know what their payment options are. Oh, Mr. Jackson, so this is about to wrap up your enrollment and you have some payment options. You can pay your $107 monthly premium via electronic funds. It's called ETF. Click on that, Matt. So if Mr. Jackson wanted to use his checking account or savings account to pay his monthly premium, we just put in his information here and it'll automatically start deducting. He also have an option of direct pay. That is where he would get a monthly statement for the $107 premium. Another option, and very popular, is the SSA or Social Security. Most say, yes, please deduct it from my monthly Social Security payment. So yes, I read these communications and continue to signature options. And this is a mirror of the SOA. So we're not going to go through this demonstration, but if you see, if he chooses sign via remote signature, the top. So yeah, if he was in person, go ahead and do that then, Matt. If Matt was in person with me now, he would sign on my iPad, and I would sign, and then bam, we'd submit it. But in this case, we are given a remote demonstration, so we will do it just like we did the SOA demonstration, the statement. Yeah, so Matt would put in his information, or some of this is already populated because he did it in the beginning. We give him another unique access number. Don't give him the same 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 you gave him before. It can get confusing in the email platform world. So give him a brand new 5-digit number, and then you hit send applicant an enrollment receipt and send the agent an enrollment receipt and hit launch. So then Matt would go to his email where he can the attestment. You have to hit the attest. I attest that I have discussed this beneficiary information.
Oh, there we go.
Right there, yeah.
Good call.
And then he would launch it, and it will go directly to, he will get a receipt in his email, and it pops up fairly quick. As you can see, it says almost done. Matt's going to get two things. No, Matt's going to get the enrollment where he's going to do the 3-step acceptance, confirmation acceptance, and myself as an agent is going to get an enrollment receipt. I don't think you can see the enrollment receipt because that would be Pierce, but again, your Matt Jackson for the actual enrollment is going to put in his 5-digit access code. Remember, it's different from the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's a full new set of 5 digits. Validate. He's going to click yes, that he's willing to participate in an electronic disclosure. Hit continue. And this is all the information from the application. You can go start. He goes next. He doesn't have to change any of this information. As a matter of fact, he cannot. He can only read it to confirm that it's correct. He's going to adopt and sign and hit finish. And he's done. That concludes the enrollment. And as an agent, you'll have access to going back to your lien to see that your enrollment was enrolled correctly. Couple more things, Matt, about maybe copying the application for your records. Go ahead.
So we can view the application here, and there's a couple ways you can go about it. Once you complete this, we can just copy everything and paste, copy paste. If you choose to do it that way, and you can put it in a Word document or something like that. Otherwise, I can show you another way. I don't know if, do we want to go into HA real quick, or at least just touch on it?
You might as well.
Okay.
You got 4 minutes.
Let's see if it loads. So the health assessment is something that you have the opportunity to help out with. Really, it's a way of identifying and giving credibility to yourself that you're taking an interest in your clients or your new members' health. It allows the member to also understand if they have any underlying conditions that they might not know about through these questionnaires. And then this is also sent to their provider and gives them the provider the opportunity to look at what the questionnaire, how it was answered, and helps with just the model of care on the current member. So you'd be able to go through and ask these questions and submit an HA or health assessment. And again, it's just making sure that everybody's on the same page with the client's current health status. And with this, when you do complete these, I believe it's a $50 bonus that you get per HA that you complete. Is that correct, Brett?
That is correct. So
Awesome.
For completing the HA or the health assessment, it's not a requirement as part of the enrollment. Again, it's just an assistance to help for our coordination of care with our member. You would be compensated an additional $50 on top of the street level commission paid through the CMS. Mm-hmm. So that pretty much wraps up how simple it is to do an enrollment. And as I just pointed out, Matt and I did this via a training back and forth, and it took no more than 15 or 16, 17 minutes. So that just goes to show you, get your certifications. It's fairly easy on completing the enrollment and the SOA portions of this. And Matt is just showing here where he can go to his applications and see where his new enrollment should be found. I think it's at the bottom.
Yeah, so if you go to the submitted tab, so it defaults to action required on things you want to still attend to. Once you're submitted, here we are, Matt Jackson. So I didn't complete the HA. I can have up to, I believe it's 3 days, correct me if I'm wrong, Brett, on starting the HA. So you have 3 days for it to be completed. As you can see here, Snow White had one, and there's a confirmation number of that HA. You can click on your submitted application here, and you can download the application as well. So if you don't want to do the copy and paste method, you can come into this section and view application or download the application for any purposes that you need it. And it shows the...
Looks like we're at the top of the hour. I wish we could have left a little bit of room for questions, but I did post the link for the training. We'll also email it out to Jeff, or Matt maybe give it out to everyone. I'm not sure how he's going to disseminate it, but each of you will get a link. Feel free, test it out. Send us questions. Email us, call us. We're always available. Again, thank you for having us, Jeff, and I'll let yourself and Matt wrap it up.
Yeah. And last thing I'll say is, again, we encourage you to use the test site over this next week. Next week, our plan is to kind of go through another enrollment situation, answer any questions on this lean platform, and then we can move into some other content as we see necessary. So if you have any questions, reach out to us. Be more than happy to kind of walk you through things. But hopefully this was helpful and that you're excited that it is a fairly easy process to completing the enrollment.
Yeah, thank you so much, Matt, Brett, Patrick, and Raheel. Appreciate everything you guys have done. We'll definitely test out the Lean app as soon as possible. So thank you guys very much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Take care. Have a great week.
Great week, everybody.
Great training. Great job.
Yeah, great stuff.
Thanks, guys.